The other day I did a YouTube video, and if you don't know where my channel is, you can go to brucewhipple.com and click on YouTube, or you can just probably Google Bruce Whipple YouTube and come to the same thing. But it was entitled "My Most Successful Mentee Reveals the Secret to His Success." And what I did was take clips from the Pantheon interview, and if you want to just Google Bruce Whipple Pantheon.com, you'll get to the people in the Pantheon, and you'll see his in full interview. But I want to give you some clips and then add some commentary around those. So that was part one. Part two, I'm going to do as a podcast, different medium. So it'll only be a voice, obviously. But I want to go through several other clips that I think will really help you and show you, again, for my most successful mentee, how that happened, what things might separate what you're doing now from what he did, and the traits. So the first clip is basically on fixing problems and how to address fixing problems. So let's get to that clip.
And I think that's something I did always. If I have a bad situation, I call it out, and I come to you, come to my team, to my partners, and we figure out a way. Usually problems don't fix themselves, so
no,
you
no,
have to work on them.
Yeah, and left alone, usually they actually become bigger problems.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
And again, you by not raising your hand early, you rob yourself of the time that sometimes, if you had that time, you could have fixed it, as opposed to letting it become a big problem. This second clip was in answer to what separates you, Gabriel, from those that might not succeed, what traits. And he talked about communication, dreams, visions, confidence, perseverance, persistence, and integrity, all of which are super critical. So let's listen to what he had to say about that in our discussion on those subjects. So what do you think, be a little egotistical here, what do you think separates you from, in this process, that those that don't succeed?
That's a good question. I had some thoughts about that. I think there are several things. First of all, I think you have to be a decent communicator, at least. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, English is not my first language. My first language is a little bit better than my English, but I think I'm a pretty good salesman and a decent communicator. I think that's a big part, because you have to sell your dream, you have to sell the vision, the mission, what you try to accomplish, and it has to be tangible for people. They have to understand what you're trying to explain to them. Sellers, partners, whatever. So everybody has to get what you want from them. So be a good communicator, and then confidence in communication, but also in if shit hits the fence. So you have to be confident. You have to be the guy nobody shares. Oh no, you are not allowed to share doubts. The people, your team, everybody has to have the feeling that you have everything in your control. So I think confidence, even if it's sometimes not true.
Yeah. You're right, because when the shit hits the fan, if you panic, everyone else will panic. They'll follow your lead, and good leaders become calmer in crisis. That's not easy. And you're right, it is learned. And sometimes on the inside, you don't feel that way. But you also develop within yourself a track record of, okay, I've seen this kind of problem before, and I know what to do, and I know. Yes. So you get, sometimes you get an adrenaline spike when you get bad news, but that settles down, then you get to work. Absolutely.
So I'm always trying to be more and more stoic. That's the word I use. If the situation gets worse, or if we have problems. So I think confidence is really important, but above all, I think perseverance and persistence.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think that's And I'm a pretty persistent guy, so
Yeah.
so I think that's maybe the number one contributor. If you can say one thing, I would say persistence and perseverance.
Persistence, perseverance, action. And I go back to the letters that were working that weren't working, the 14 LOIs that you got that disappeared. Most people would have said, oh, okay, well, boy, that was hard and it's all gone. So, no, this isn't going to work, but that's not the path you chose. The other thing, and if I've ever said this to you before, but you certainly share this trait that I view as very important myself, and that is to be punctual. Is that, and I remember you told me a story that you went to meet your father for lunch, and
Yes.
I could be off a minute or two, but you were supposed to meet at 12 o'clock. You got there at 12:02 or 12:03. Texted your dad and said, "I'm at the restaurant. Where are you?" And he essentially said, "I was there at 12. You weren't. I left."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So it's a
I had
good
a good
lesson to
mentor
learn.
too.
Yeah, you had a good mentor in your dad.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Integrity. Yeah.
Integrity. Great point. Great
Yeah.
point. And what do you mean by that? How does that exhibit itself in what you've seen?
In my first language, there would be a specific saying, but basically, if a man give you his word or his handshake or whatever, it has to be his bond.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most the best image I can try to project for anybody listening.
Yeah.
So if somebody says something, he will do it, and you have that. If you have the partners that they who will do that, and you're also the guy who always does it, I think you will have a much better life and much better business relationships.
And you build that reputation. You build that reputation that Gabriel said this, and guess what? He did it. Sometimes that costs you money to do that. When other people would say, we can't afford to do that. But those are the times when integrity shows the most.
Exactly.
And that's the experience that other people will remember too. They'll remember, it cost him money to follow through on what he did, but he did it anyway.
I have an example on that. So
yeah,
I'm following up on this habit. Let me say pretty hard, like you said. And a short while ago I made let me say, not a terrible, but it was not the best deal. It was not an acquisition. It was another negotiation, and we had a handshake on that deal. It turned out to be not the best deal I've could have reached or negotiated, but we already agreed, or I agreed, and my team was furious and said, "No, you cannot accept that." But I said, look, I already, we had our handshake. The deal is done. We don't have to renegotiate it. End of story. And I think that's important habit. And yeah.
Well, I think it's an important habit. I think it's an important lesson to those employees. And it's one thing to say you have integrity, but it's another thing to act like it. And in that moment, you imparted to them, okay, he did what he said he was going to do, even though it was a bad deal, if you will. And you're going to have some of those.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's super important. One of the few things worth dying for is your integrity.
Yes.
In this clip, I asked Gabriel about what his biggest challenge was, and his answer was interesting to me, especially the way he began it. And then he talked about the importance of focus as well. But let's listen to it, and particularly the way he viewed challenges and the way you might view challenges. When we started working together, what do you think was your biggest challenge?
So I thought about that too, and there were a lot of challenges and also problems in the whole process in building up the company. But actually, I cannot say there was one big challenge that was floating around in my mind. So it's I cannot point out one particular challenge. I really can't. So it's I think if you want to call it a challenge, it's to have the particular guidance to help you going this way, because sometimes it's lonely, right? It's lonely.
Sure.
And if you have, I use the word again, sparring partner, you can call, you can write, and he will help you to guide yourself. He's not guiding you, but he helps you guide yourself through any issues that might appear. I think that was really important, but there's not one challenge I said that hold me back or prevented me from going faster. I think
you're right. And one of the things that holds a lot of people back, that you don't suffer from this, everybody suffers a little bit, but not to a large degree, is self-image and self-esteem. Is, can I really do this? What if I call and I'm rejected? What if the banks won't loan me money? What if the people won't sell to me? On and on. What if I can't get professionals? And I don't ever recall a conversation that we had like that. It's like, I don't think I can do this, and I'm having too many problems. You focused on the things you wanted,
yes,
and you kept your mind off the things you didn't want, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. You can say that. I think maybe I'm a little bit gifted in this area, but I try to remember also in my past, in sports or whatever, it was never a thing to focus. I cannot do that, or it's hard. It was never. That's not my nature. So maybe that's a little gift I got from my parents.
Or maybe it's a big gift you got from your
maybe
parents.
It's a big gift.
Absolutely. In this next clip, I asked Gabriel to talk about what guidance I gave to him, and I didn't know what he was going to say, so let's both listen to that. So can you think back on what guidance I gave you, and how did you apply it, and did it work, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think especially in tough negotiations, in let me say in discussions with business partners that were not that easy, how to maneuver, let me say, a really complex situation. Your guidance was always let me say, not yet for sure guidance, but your I don't recall the word in English. Your know-how, your what is it called? The things you have
your experience.
Experience was the word, exactly. Yeah. So I think experience. I don't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
To my age.
You have a lot more now.
Yes. But if you look at somebody who is 3 times as old as you are, or 2 times as old as you are, he has to have a lot more experience if he was doing the same thing, basically.
Right.
Like, so I think to see a complex situation, and maybe you had the same situation in one kind or another 10 times the same thing, the basic issue, and to help maneuver through your experience, through these conversations, negotiations, etc. I think that was if I recall, I think that was the most time we spent on was complex situations and how to handle them.
Yeah.
Complex negotiation, how to handle them, how to structure certain projects and all that things. And I think your hundreds of deals experience come in handy in such a situation. And I think you helped me guide this situation a lot, or these problems.
Well, thank you. And you put that into action, which is kind of the most important piece of it.
Yes.
It's sometimes hard to believe, but you can always find more money. You cannot find more time. You can delegate, which is kind of like doing that. But I asked Gabriel in this, what did he learn? And in the mentoring that we did, what did it do in terms of saving you time and saving you money? So let's hear what his answer is to that. So how did the mentoring save you time? How did it save you money if it did?
I think it saved me a lot of time. Also because there we are again with the sparring party. You're a little bit held accountable on your process. So if you following up every week or every 2 weeks or every month, whatever, you want to show progress, right? So and you sometimes we lie to ourselves and say, yeah, we do that later. We do that later. If you have the follow-up meetings or the our weekly catch-ups or whatever you want to call it, you have to show something. So it saves time in the sense that you have a sense of urgency engineered in your life because you want to deliver something to somebody you are, let me say, you hold yourself accountable to. In terms of money, I cannot put a number on it. I cannot, but I'm pretty sure if I did it 100% by myself, I would make more mistakes, maybe some more bad deals, and so I think it's quite priceless to have somebody like you, a mentor that help you guide and maneuver through building up a company, an acquisition company. So I would say priceless. Saving money, and in terms of time, I would say there, if you can, one phone call and an issue is basically solved, or you have a war plan for an issue, and maybe alone you would have weeks to figure it out. Everybody can decide for themselves how much time it saves. So
yeah,
I would say
absolutely. And as I think back on it, you know, the process of where you were in that August of 2019 to where you are less than 4 years later, there's not many programs legal programs anyway, that can allow you to generate the kind of enterprise value wealth that you've been able to generate in that time frame. Never would have happened if you had stayed where you were. Never would have happened.
I agree, 100%.
You know,
impossible.
Unless you play a lottery and the odds are about 300 million to 1, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And I asked Gabriel about how his dreams evolved over the time we were working together, and then how he was able to basically create his own blueprint for adding acquisitions where he could copy and paste. And lastly, in this clip, how, as advantageous but maddening to some people this is, that he hasn't had to do any outreach now in his area, that people have seen how they operate, and it's all incoming. People calling him a very enviable position to be in. But as you get successful and a reputation for doing things the right way, I hope that you have that same experience as well. And I think the other thing I've seen is that your dream, your goals have certainly evolved over time. In the beginning, I'm not so sure you would have been able to think that within this time frame you would get the hunting line from the bank that you have today, and that you could go and double that reasonably easy with some help from your board, certainly, and that you could grow beyond where you are now. You know, you would maybe have focused tighter geography, but now you've widened that horizon as well. Exactly. So what were goals before grew as well with your experience, with your success, and you realized, you know, I can do this, you know, at a continuing larger level than you have.
100%. And I would say I use the word a lot also with my team. We established, and it's maybe not 100% now the first steps and the building blocks, but you create your own blueprint, let me say, and you can adapt it on everything basically. If that's an acquisition, if it's negotiation, is selling, whatever. And I think now I understand. I have a blueprint, and I basically can copy it to everything else. And
copy and paste, rinse, repeat, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. And I think that's even to a degree that a lot of even private equity firms here where I am, and family offices, they don't understand it. They're not understanding what we are doing here and how I do it that quickly. And they're asking now us, what do you do differently? And I think that's after a couple of acquisitions, and you understand what's really behind it, and you have the confidence and the experience or competence and experience. The sky's the limit, basically. So
And now, as opposed to you reaching out, although you are still reaching out in some of these new areas you're working, but you end up getting calls because of the success you've had. You know, in the beginning, that's hard to believe that people are going to be calling me to give me a deal, but you've had that happen. Yes.
So to full disclosure, at the moment in our core business area, we do not do any outreach anymore. So there are people that are bringing the deals to us. There are persons if somebody wants to sell, they are just calling us because they see they see our success, but they also see our how we do business with a lot of integrity, with a lot of common, let me say, or with a lot of honesty. So we don't try to screw somebody over. We are just fair. We're straight to the point, and we're fast, quick, and have a lot of integrity. And I think there we are again with if they see you have a lot of integrity and you are successful, they want to be around you. And I think that's where we are right now.
Absolutely. And the last clip I want to include in this podcast is, I think, an interesting one. And we talk about whether this acquisition process is right for everyone. And then lastly, the one thing, turned out to be a couple things, that he would want to leave in terms of what is the most important thing in being successful at doing this. So without further ado, let's do that last clip. I hope that as you listen to this, it helps you, and that you begin to say, okay, I can do this as well if I repeat the same things and work hard at this. Well, in summary here, first, congratulations again. I'm honored to have you as the first inductee into the Pantheon. You've certainly earned that and did the heavy lifting. What would people that listen to this, what would you leave them as kind of the final thoughts that you might have?
I have to don't say anything wrong here from my side. But I thought a lot about should I say that, but I will. It's certainly not for everybody, and that's okay.
True enough.
So, but I think if there is, like I said earlier, one particular thing or two things that are really important two words to your success would be probably persistent focus. Persistent focus and action, right? And
exactly. Action. You took a lot of action. Well, good. Well, thank you. I'm glad that we're doing something together here beyond just the mentoring. It's exciting to see and have a piece of what you're doing.
Valuable piece.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you very much.
So beyond the first video that I mentioned over on YouTube, you have in this podcast 7 clips. I hope that between the video and this podcast, you take some notes, you write down some things that will inspire you, you will write down some actions that you should be taking that maybe you're not taking or taking them differently. And success does leave clues. So look at these clues, institute them, make them your own, and you will end up, I think, going much further than if you don't implement these things. So if you don't know what to do, go over to brucewhipple.com, take a spin around that. Between the courses, the coaching, you'll find things that could help you. But there's a lot in this video and this podcast that if you followed, you will do much, much better. Of that I am sure.